12 reasons more cruisers than ever are denied boarding. Imagine this happened to you and you spent months and months planning your cruise. You've booked the excursions, bought the outfits, and maybe even bragged a little to your friends. But then, when you finally get to the terminal, someone looks at your paperwork, pauses, and says those 4 words no cruiser ever wants to hear. I'm sorry, you're denied. In 2025, more cruisers than ever are being turned away at the port. And not just for obvious reasons. I'm talking about things you'd never expect, like your shirt, your middle name, or even your deodorant. So in this video, I'm breaking down 12 of the most surprising, frustrating, and downright sneaky reasons cruisers are being denied boarding this year, with real stories to back them up. Because no one tells you this stuff, but I will. Let's get into it. Number 1, showing up late to the terminal. It sounds simple. Just be on time, right? But this is still the number 1 reason people are left standing at the dock waving goodbye to their ship. Cruise lines usually require you to check in at least 1 full hour before the scheduled departure. That's not a suggestion, it's enforced. And it doesn't matter if the ship's still sitting there, tied to the pier. Once customs and immigration shut down their side of things, no one else is allowed on. I read about a group of 10 people recently who arrived just 30 minutes before sailing. Flight delays, traffic, all the usual excuses. But guess what? They still got denied and got 0 refund. So here's the fix. Fly in a day early. Add a hotel night if you have to. It's way cheaper than missing your cruise entirely. Number 2, expired or mismatched travel documents. Nothing kills cruise day faster than finding out your passport expired 2 weeks ago, or that your cruise is booked under Jenny, but your ID says Jennifer. One couple showed up excited and ready to go, bags packed, smiles on. But one of their passports had expired just 14 days earlier. And that was it. Cruise denied. No sympathy. No sail. And even on US-only itineraries, where you might be using a birth certificate and photo ID, everything still has to match exactly. No photocopies, no nicknames, no middle name errors. Traveling with kids that aren't yours? You'll need a notarized permission letter from their parents. Changed your last name after getting married? Bring the official paperwork. Before you leave home, triple-check your documents and make sure everything matches like a puzzle. Because this isn't something they'll let slide. Number 3, criminal record blocking port entry like Canada. Here's one that a lot of people never even consider until it's too late. Let's say you've got a past DUI. Maybe it was years ago, you paid your dues, and you've moved on. But your cruise stops in Canada? That old record could block you from getting on the ship entirely. And it's not the cruise line making the call, it's the immigration rules in the ports you're visiting. Canada in particular is known for being strict. Because the cruise line already knows the destination will refuse you, and they're not taking the risk of having someone on board who can't legally disembark at every port. Even if most of your cruise is at sea or visiting other countries, one problem stop can ruin the whole itinerary. So here's the takeaway. If you've ever had any criminal conviction, even a non-violent one from a long time ago, look up the port rules. Talk to immigration or apply for a special waiver before you cruise. Because once you're at the terminal, it's way too late, and that ship will literally sail without you. Number 4, wearing camouflage or offensive clothing. Yup, what you wear can actually get you denied. And I'm not talking about showing up in pajamas, though maybe don't do that either. This is about camo, controversial slogans, and even how clean or appropriate your outfit looks. One guy showed up wearing a camouflage print tank top. Just a fashion choice, right? Wrong. He was pulled aside at embarkation and told he could be denied boarding if he wore that off the ship. Why? Because in places like Barbados, Jamaica, and St. Lucia, wearing camouflage is illegal for civilians, even tourists. Cruise staff warned him that if he stepped off the ship like that, he could be fined or arrested. And yeah, the shirt had to go. Same goes for clothing with offensive slogans or explicit language. If your outfit is seen as inappropriate for a family-friendly environment, staff can ask you to change, or even refuse boarding if you don't. And here's something people don't talk about, but it happens. Bikinis at check-in? Not a good idea. You're not at the pool yet. Turning up to the cruise terminal in a revealing swimsuit, a see-through cover-up, or basically anything that makes people stare for the wrong reasons can get you pulled aside and asked to change. Smell is another issue. I know, it sounds harsh, But there have been real reports of passengers being denied boarding due to strong body odor or musty clothing. Cruise lines can, and do, turn people away if your condition might impact the comfort of other guests. And if you're sailing a luxury or premium cruise line, appearance matters even more. If you show up wearing stained, ripped, or dirty clothing, especially in the main dining room or at embarkation, they'll quietly ask you to change into something clean before you're allowed on board or seated. I've even heard of guests being told to find a fresh shirt before stepping into higher-end restaurants, especially on formal nights. So here's the simple rule. If you wouldn't wear it to meet your in-laws for the first time, don't wear it to board a cruise ship. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about respecting the environment and not giving staff a reason to flag you for inappropriate dress before you've even had your welcome drink. Number 5. Travel insurance required by the cruise line. Here's something most people don't realize. Travel insurance isn't always optional. On some cruises, it's a non-negotiable requirement, especially if you're sailing with lines like Cunard or going on expedition cruises to places like Antarctica or the Arctic. They'll actually require you to prove you've got valid insurance before they let you on board, and we're not talking about basic coverage. In some cases, they want policies that include cruise-specific coverage, medical evacuation, and even repatriation worth millions. That means if your policy doesn't meet their criteria, or you don't have one at all, you're not cruising that day. I've seen people show up at the terminal totally unaware, bags in hand, only to be told they're not allowed on. And no, they didn't get a refund. So even if it's not listed in big, bold letters, always check the fine print on your cruise line's requirements, especially if you're departing from the UK, doing an expedition-style voyage, or sailing somewhere remote. It could mean the difference between smooth sailing and getting stuck dockside. Number 6. Being too pregnant or traveling with a baby that's too young. This one's tough, especially if you're planning a big family cruise or a baby moon. But the rules are the rules, and they're strict. If you're 24 weeks pregnant or more at any point during your cruise, most cruise lines will deny boarding, full stop. Even if you're under that limit, they usually require a doctor's letter stating you're healthy enough to travel and confirming your due date. And if you're thinking of bringing a newborn along, check the age restrictions first. Most cruise lines won't allow babies under 6 months old, and for longer or more exotic itineraries, the minimum age might be 12 months. You'd be surprised how many people show up thinking the rules don't apply to them, only to get turned away at check-in with a stroller in one hand and a denied boarding notice in the other. If you're unsure whether you meet the requirements, don't just assume it's fine. Call your cruise line ahead of time and get it in writing. Otherwise, your dream cruise could turn into a very expensive trip to nowhere. Number 7. Carrying prohibited items like irons, CBD, or toy weapons. We all know you can't bring actual weapons or illegal drugs on a cruise, but people still get denied boarding every year for packing things they didn't even realize were banned. Like what? Clothing irons, for one. Yep. Something as simple as an iron can get you flagged because it's considered a fire hazard, or CBD gummies, even if they're legal in your home state. One woman was denied boarding and banned for life by Carnival after security found CBD in her bag at check-in. And it doesn't stop there. One guy even packed a fake pirate sword as part of his costume for a themed cruise night. Security didn't care that it was plastic. It looked realistic enough to be flagged as a threat. If you refuse to surrender a prohibited item or argue with staff about it, you could lose your entire vacation before it even starts. So here's your quick fix. Check your cruise line's prohibited items list before you pack. It's usually on their website, and it'll tell you everything from banned appliances to oddly specific costume rules. When in doubt, leave it out. Number 8. Getting drunk before check-in. Here's a real party foul, showing up to your cruise already tipsy. You'd be shocked how many people celebrate a little too hard at the beach bar before heading to the terminal. But cruise security? They can spot a drunk passenger from a mile away, and if you're visibly intoxicated, you will not be getting on that ship. Even if you're not causing a scene, being off balance or smelling like a cocktail shaker is enough to get you pulled aside. One group of friends learned this the hard way after their embarkation pregame turned into a one-way trip back to the parking lot. Cruise lines have a zero-tolerance policy when it comes to intoxication at check-in. They're thinking about safety. If they board someone who's already impaired, that's a potential liability. So if you're tempted to start the party early, just wait until you're on board. There's no shortage of cocktails once you've cleared security, and you'll actually be allowed to enjoy them. Number 9. Rude or aggressive behavior at the terminal. This one should be obvious, but it keeps happening. Yelling at staff, cutting the line, arguing with security, these are all fast-track tickets to getting denied boarding. Cruise terminals are high-stress environments already, and the staff are trained to shut things down before they become problems at sea. I heard a story about one guy who got frustrated over a long wait at check-in and demanded to speak to a manager. He got loud, refused to calm down, and ended up getting escorted out. No cruise, no refund. Here's the thing. If cruise staff see you behaving badly on land, they're not taking the risk of seeing what you're like once you're on a floating city with 3,000 other people. So if things are running late or something goes wrong, just take a breath. It's not worth blowing your whole vacation over a 5-minute tantrum. Number 10. Missing middle names or typos in booking info. This one sounds ridiculous, but it's real. If your booking says Jenny Smith, but your passport says Jennifer Marie Smith, that mismatch can be enough to stop you at the terminal. Cruise lines have to submit exact passenger info to immigration, and even the tiniest error can trigger red flags. There was one guy who booked under the name Jimmy, showed up with a passport that said James, and didn't have time to prove the change. He got denied right there at check-in. And it's not just names. A wrong birth date, a missing middle name, or even a typo in your passport number can cause issues, especially if you're traveling internationally. The fix? Double-check every single detail on your booking confirmation the minute you get it. Fixing it early is easy. Fixing it at the terminal? Forget it. Number 11. Medical issues or visible illness at check-in. You might be feeling fine, but if cruise staff see something that concerns them medically, they have the right to say no. There was a woman with a chronic cough from allergies who got flagged by medical staff. Even though it wasn't contagious, she got pulled aside for screening and ultimately denied boarding. No cruise, no refund. It's the same for people recovering from recent surgeries or major medical procedures. If you don't bring a doctor's letter clearing you to sail, you could be sent home on the spot. COVID symptoms are still taken seriously too. Some lines say any signs of illness could lead to denial, even if you test negative. So if you're feeling unwell, or you've had any recent procedures, check with your cruise line ahead of time. The last place you want to get surprising medical news is standing at the gangway with your bags. Before we get to the last one, if you're one of the legends who made it this far, first of all, thank you. Please give the video a like and subscribe to Cruise For You if you haven't already. And in the comments, type Cruise For You so I know you made it to the end, and tell me where you're sailing next or where you'd love to cruise someday. Number 12. Overbooking or maintenance issues in your cabin. This one's rare, but it's happened. Imagine showing up on time, with all the right documents, ready to board, and being told, sorry, your cabin isn't available. Yup. Sometimes, due to plumbing issues, air conditioning failure, or yes, overbooking, passengers have been turned away through no fault of their own. One couple flew in internationally, checked in early, and were still told they couldn't board because their cabin had a last-minute maintenance issue. The cruise line offered a credit for a future cruise, but that didn't help their holiday, or the money they'd already spent on flights and hotels. Now this isn't something you can always avoid, but there are a few things that help. Book directly through the cruise line when possible, check in early, and always have travel insurance that covers cruise disruptions. It won't stop a cabin flood, but it can help you recover your losses if the worst happens.